Welcome to Don't Be Shady, the podcast where we get real about finding love that truly matches your worth. I am your host, Priscilla, and together we're going to navigate the ups and downs of dating, all while making sure you're reaching for the best version of yourself and your relationships. Whether you're just starting out, healing from a breakup, or looking to level up your love life, this is the place for candid conversations, expert advice, and a whole lot of self love. Get ready to date smart, confidently, and most importantly, date on your level. Now, this month, we're going to get candid about violence. We're talking about domestic violence. It might be a little uncomfortable and tears may be shed, but this is a very dear and important topic that I really want to talk about and cover. And I want to help as many women and as men as I can. So here we go. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So this is going to be a conversation that we're going to have all month long. Domestic violence can happen to anyone and affect all people of social, economic backgrounds and education levels. What is domestic violence? Now, according to the Department of Justice, domestic violence is a pattern of abusive behavior in any relationship that is used by one partner to gain or maintain power and control over another intimate partner. Domestic violence can be physical, sexual, emotional, economic, psychological, or technological actions or threats of actions or other patterns of coercion behavior that influences another person within an intimate relationship. This includes any behaviors that intimidate, manipulate, humiliate, isolate, frighten, terrorize, coerce, threaten, blame, hurt, injure, or would someone or injure someone. Where now I want to give you guys some places to go if you're experiencing this. If you're unsure if what you're experiencing is abuse, please talk to a professional at one of these organizations. If you believe you or a loved one is in danger, like immediate danger, just call 911. Like, don't call a hotline, call 911. The National Domestic Violence Hotline. And then you can speak with a domestic abuse advocate 24/7. You're going to call 1-800-799-SAFE or 1-800-799-7233 or visit thehotline.org to chat with an advocate. The Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence helpline. And then you can speak with a domestic abuse advocate. They provide support, information, and referrals about sexual and domestic violence, as well as assistance navigating the legal system. And then you can call 1-800-782-6400 between 8 and 5, Monday through Friday. An online chat option is available as well at arizonasurvivors.org. The City of Phoenix and Phoenix Police Department provides resources for individuals experiencing domestic violence, including hotlines, support services, protective orders, and court information, and more. Connect to a wide variety of support services, including domestic violence shelters. And then you can contact 211arizona.org or dial 211 to get some immediate assistance. Now, that is just some information that I want to provide to you so that you have that before we get started. So, I want to explain that domestic violence, like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, that it can come in different forms of domestic violence. It can come in different forms. If I can get my words together. It's going to come in different forms. There's going to be different, it's going to look very different for everyone, and not every situation is going to look the same. You know, I've been, when I look back on my life and I think about all the things that I've really been through, my first relationship, I was very young. I was 16, and my ex-husband, now ex-husband, was 21. And looking back, I should have not been in that relationship, but I was. And I was it was financially unstable. It was emotionally, mentally, and physically abusive. Um, if you know me personally, you know who I'm talking about. If you don't know me personally, then you have no idea, and that's okay. Um, it took me a long time to get over or move on past that relationship. I have so many stories that I'm sure many of you ladies and gentlemen can relate to. Um, I moved here. My family's originally from here, but my dad was military, so we have moved around a lot. The last place that we were before we came here was Texas. So we're in Texas. We came back here, and I was in high school. I was a freshman in high school, and I met my soon-to-be husband through a cousin. He was over there hanging out, and he was amazing. Like, great communication. He would like pick me up and take me to high school. It was crazy. He even like would pick me up to go to school. It was wild. Very like giving, like gifts. He would like buy me rings. He would take me to get my nails done. Like, he would buy me food. All the wonderful things, right? And then as soon as I became pregnant, all of those things stopped. He stopped buying me things. He stopped dating me. We got a place, and I'm not really sure. It's been a long, 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 long time, but I know I ended up having to step up and work and pay all the bills, because he wouldn't work, or I'm not sure. I don't really remember the situation at that particular moment in time, but there was a situation around where he didn't work. So since he didn't work, I had to step up as a 16-year-old and pay the bills. And that's what I did. I also went to high school as well. So I'm pregnant, going to high school, paying all the bills while he didn't work. And and then when he would like do side jobs or bring in some type of money, it was his money. It wasn't our money, it was his money. So then we went 50-50. But there would be times like I made 475 at McDonald's. That was my first job. There'd be times when I just didn't have the money to do it, to cover my part, and either like to cut the hours, or I was sick, something took place. And he like did not care. Like, I don't care. Figure it out. That's, you need to get your half of the money. Like, we're roommates. Like, okay. And then the drug use started, uh, like the heavy drug use. And because I'm very young and very naive, I didn't know this was happening. So I was working, and then I was going to school after work. So a lot of times I wouldn't come home until like, I wouldn't get home until about 10:30 every night. Um, because I was very determined to finish high school. So I couldn't pick like up extra shifts or nothing like that, because I was already working from 5 a.m. to 1:30, 2 o'clock. So I could catch the bus to get to school part time, because I went to school from 4 to 8. No car. So, but he had a car, but he would not take me to school. He wouldn't drive me to school. He wouldn't pick me up. So it was my responsibility. So I was like, cool, whatever. So another thing, right? Another thing to add to that. So all of these things were happening, and then he started getting physical. So it was financial abuse and then physical abuse. And this was like little things here and there. We'd argue, I would get slapped, or he would take off for days with the car that he had. He would take off the car. Um, I would know who he was, or I would call his friends and they wouldn't tell me. So there's that. Like, what the hell? Um, but I say all of this because I didn't understand that what I was going through was domestic violence. Like, I didn't understand that. I just thought that people fought and that there was going to be arguments and that relationships go through things and you just work through them, which that's all true in a sense, but we don't go through the go through things that are abusive or hard physically and emotionally. My parents lived in a completely different state, so I didn't really have a lot of people that I could really run to. I had my, my godmom and I had my grandparents, but they're a lot older. And so I was very prideful. I didn't want everybody in my business. So I didn't reach out as much as I should have because I was like, I got myself into this situation. I need to just take care of it type mentality, which, which is, there's nothing wrong with having that type of mentality because the less people you have in your business, the less they know. But when something is going on to those extremes, you need to reach out and tell somebody. But I didn't realize that there was resources. I didn't realize that I could have went to a shelter. I didn't realize any of this stuff, right? So there was a period in time where I had tried to leave a few times and it just didn't work out. But I kept telling my friends, I'm leaving, I'm going to leave. I can't take it anymore. I got to go. So um, I finally was in a position where I was able to leave. Um, but I needed some help. So me and a few friends, I rented a new house because remember I was a breadwinner, so I I had all the money. I controlled all the money and he never really worked, which it ended up working out in the long run because we did have two children. We ended up having a second kid. I got pregnant at 21. So I ended up having a second kid, and it was a girl. So I had my boy first, and I had my girl, and it ended up working out to where he was working, but he was drinking very heavily, and would disappear for days at a time, drinking and drugging, whatever that looked like. Again, at the time, I was still very naive to drugs and all that, so I didn't really understand what was going on. Because he would say, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the store," and then the store turned into 2 days gone. Like it was just weird. So you get tired of that. You get tired of in and out of jail. You get tired of the domestic violence. You get tired of being abused mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. But again, I didn't really understand these things were happening. I just thought that was part of the relationship because this was my very first real heavy relationship that I had been in. And so I didn't know any better. Right. So, and then my friends were all young, so they didn't have any experience either. We're all going through the same thing at the same time. So, who was going to be telling anybody advice for anything? Like, no one. We couldn't give each other advice. We were just talking about what we were experiencing and we knew what to. We didn't know nothing. Let's just say that we didn't know nothing. So, because of those experiences, I was in a position where I was finally able to leave. So I rented a house. He went to work that morning. I took the day off. Um, I don't remember I was working at the time. Again, this was a long time ago. I either took the day off or called off. I don't know. And I picked up the U-Haul and I cleaned out the house and I left. And the reason why I did that is because that was the safest thing for me to do at that time because I knew if I had tried to do it a different way, the outcome would have been very different, very different. And that was a 10-year relationship. There was a lot of things that happened, and I had finally had enough. I had tried to again leave a few times. I was even going to go back to Texas to be with my parents, but I had already a life here. There was no reason for me to move back to Texas to a place that I didn't remember existed because it had been so long. But see, whew, even talking about it is so very heavy, so very hard. Um, so I I cleaned everything out, and then I knew what time he was coming home. But I didn't touch anything that belonged to him, anything that was like his tools or his clothes or anything that belonged to him specifically. I left there because I wouldn't want anybody taking the things that I earned. I wouldn't want anybody taking any of my things. But all the things in the house, like my grandparents gave them to me. It was either I got them from like family members or whatever. So none of the things were actually bought specifically. They were given to me by my family, so I kept them. And I knew what time he was coming home, and he had pulled in the driveway as I was pulling up down the street. So I called him, and I was like, "Hey, me and the kids are gone." And he's like, "The house is empty." He's like, um, what's going on?" I was like, "I've been telling you for a long time that I'm not happy. You're still doing the things that I can't deal with. I can't deal with the drinking, the drugging, the disappearing, the verbal abuse, the financial abuse, the physical abuse, all the things. I couldn't deal with it anymore." Like, so me and the kids left. Like, I explained to him, everything that is yours is still there. The rent's paid up to the end of the month, but you need to be out by the end of the month. I took care of all of that. The utilities will be cut off at the end of the month as well. I don't know what you're going to do or where you're going to go, but you need to figure it out. And so that's how I escaped my first marriage, and that is how I was able to leave it. Um, I looking back, I wish I would have I wish I would have left a lot sooner. I wish I would have reached out to one of my aunts or a therapist or a counselor or somebody, because that was a very hard time, very, very hard time for me. But even after I left that marriage, I remember laying in bed and just bawling my eyes out because that was the hardest thing that I had to ever do. And it hurt me so bad to have to walk away from someone that I had children with, that I married, and that I wanted to spend my life with. But I had to walk away for my safety and for theirs. So, as I mourned the loss of that relationship, it took me a month basically, um, to be okay. I was like barely going to work at that time. I think I had took some time off. I don't like remember specifically, but I had taken some time off. Um, so that I could, move out of the house and get everything ready and do all the things, try to make it a home for my kids, because my goal was to make sure that my kids were safe and in an environment that they could thrive in. Because the only thing that I wanted was for them to be happy. Like, no, I wasn't happy in the moment because of what had went down, but I knew in the long run, as long as I left, that they would be safe and they would be okay. He was never bad to them. Great father, great, great, great father to my children, but not a good husband or partner to me. So we split. We, I filed for divorce, And I think it actually ended up taking me 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, because I filed initially and then something happened where I didn't complete the filing and I don't know why or what. And then I think maybe 2 or 3 years later, um, I was able to finalize the divorce. And the crazy thing about it during this whole entire situation is that me and my first husband were able to um, reconcile a co-parenting relationship, which was really beautiful. We were able to communicate. We had a schedule for the kids. He picked them up. I dropped them off, or however it worked. We were really great at communicating for the kids. Like, we didn't, there was no problem in that area because I knew that he was a good dad. And that was one thing that I wasn't going to take away is that part. So he's seen the kids every weekend. If I needed to go out of town or if I had something going on, he'd keep them. If I had a situation where, hey, I can't feed him dinner right now, money's a little tight, can you make sure that you feed him? He would take care of it. If there was a situation at school and I couldn't make it because of my work schedule or whatever, he would go and deal with the situation with the school because I couldn't at the time. So looking back, um, things happened the way that they were supposed to, but not the way that they should have. And what I mean by that is that I should have either, because I think about the situation, right? You think about, oh my God, what if we went to therapy? Oh yeah, we tried that. That didn't work. What if I fought harder? 10 years is a long time to fight for a relationship that just wasn't working anymore. Um, I think splitting up was the best thing that we could have done for each other, to be honest. And we were able to establish later a friendship, and I was even like cool with him. Like I would go over, he would cook me dinner, we'd talk on the phone. If I was like having a bad day, I would call him. If he was having a bad day or he needed a vent, he'd call me. So we were able to reconcile and build a friendship after some time had passed. um and that was really good for the kids too. But I want think looking back, I tried and I stayed so hard because I wanted my family to be together. I wanted my kids to grow up with a mom and a dad. But that's never a reason to stay in a relationship ever. Never a reason. Because your kids would rather see you happy than fighting and going through what you guys are going through every day. I don't remember it was my son and my daughter. I can't remember which one it was. But I asked one of the children, you know, do you think, leaving was a good thing for mom? Like, are you guys happy? Like, what do you feel? Because I wanted to know what my children felt about the separation. And they said, mom, we just want you to be happy. And you look like you're happy. Dad looks like he's happy. And we're all happy. You guys aren't fighting anymore. Kids are never a reason to stay in an unhealthy and unhappy relationship. They will never be a good enough reason. Your children do not want to see you fighting and arguing and hurting every single day. That creates so much trauma for them specifically. And then you're teaching them how to build relationships with their partners. So it's okay to get slapped. It's okay to get hit. It's okay to be financially, emotionally, and physically abused because mom went through that. It's okay. And so they're going to find those same relationship patterns in the people that they choose, like, because they've seen you do it. Children don't do what you say, they do what you show them. Domestic violence happens in everyone. No one is immune to it at all. And I want to challenge you, if you are going through something similar, whether it be the silent treatment, whether it be financial, like you can't you can't spend this money because I'm in control, that type of thing. Like there's a difference between like we can't afford that right now because we have X, Y, and Z to pay versus nope, you can't have that because I said no, I'm in control. There's a huge difference between the two. Don't mistake them. Um, being called anything but your name, anything but your name. Um, and did you know in the state of Arizona, if two parents are fighting in the home and the police get called too many times, that is considered domestic violence, abuse towards your children, even though they're not physically getting harmed, like the parents aren't hitting them, they're hitting each other. If your children are involved in situations where they're in the middle of the parents, they will take your children away for that. They will open a case against you because of that. It happens all the time to so many families because the parents are going at it and the child is not being protected. That is a threat to the child. So then they start taking away the children. So this is just one of my stories of domestic violence. Um, and I did not realize until I started talking about it how triggering this whole entire month is going to be for me. I really had thought that I had healed from that and that I was okay, but I'm not. It feels like I have some more work to do in this area. So I am going to be doing some work in this area for sure. Um, that is the thing about trauma, and has a way of poking its little head at times when you're trying to be serious and candid, but wow, a lot. It's almost like that's all I can say is wow. Like I truly have not healed from this situation at all, and that wow. Whew, I think my first marriage, I was 16. I didn't get married until I was 21. So I got pregnant with my second child and married around the same time. I think we got married and found out I was pregnant a month later. So I was 21 when I got married and then found out I was pregnant with my second child at 21. So, but prior to that, so 21 to 16, so 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, so 6 years. Ugh, I didn't realize that. So 6 years we were together, then we got married. And then by the time my daughter was shit, I don't remember. I think she was 2, 3, because we were together for 10 years roughly. Um, we split. My math is awful. I have to like literally think about it. And this we're recording this, so I'm not gonna do all that. But all I know is that my daughter was still very little when we split. My son's 5 years older than my daughter, so I'm sure he has a lot of trauma around all this too because my first child grew up with me. We experienced really rough times together. So I'm sure he's feeling it, you know? Oh man, this is a very heavy subject. It's going to continue to be heavy. Um, this is going to be a 4-part series. This is just episode 1 of 4. Um, this one is just kind of making you aware of what domestic violence is and what forms domestic violence comes in or domestic abuse comes in. Um, and then I wanted to give you a little backstory about myself. So I am going to end this episode here. I want to thank you so much for listening. Be on the lookout for episode 2 of this domestic violence series. And we're going to talk more candidly about some more topics that affect you and your loved ones. If you do have any questions, please make sure you are seeking professional help, calling the domestic violence helplines, going to a shelter. If you to call 911, please. If you're in immediate danger, do not like. There's so many women who are being domestically abused every single day and don't wake up, or they do not survive. This is real. It is so real. People's lives are in danger because of this. And I used to be one of those women. Um, so thank you so much for listening to my story. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And I will be adding to all major streaming platforms just to get my life together. I like to just do things. I don't have all the stuff, but I do them. That's okay. Everything will start to catch up and do its thing. So thanks again for being here. And I'll see you guys next time. I will see you guys next time on part 2 of this domestic violence series. Good night.